There were no signs. There was no stranger's car in the driveway. There was no trace of clothing from the living room to the bedroom. There were no sounds spreading through the house. I wasn't feeling well, so after the morning meeting, I decided to go home. As a boss, you could do these things. I was completely shocked when I walked into the bedroom. There was my wife, with whom we had been married for 2 years, with some guy they had sex. I did the only thing I could. There was a fight between us. I woke up groggy and immediately realized I was in the hospital. I also knew that my condition was bad because everything hurt. I was strong enough to turn my head and see my wife, Jenny, sitting in the chair. "Are you okay?" she asked. I turned my head and looked out the window. It was a stupid question that didn't deserve an answer. "I'm sorry. You weren't supposed to find out that way." "So? You mean you wanted me to find out but didn't?" She turned her head away from me and said, "Yes." I said, "You need to explain this to me. Who is this guy? How long has this been going on? Why?" My thoughts were racing at the speed of light. You won't like the answers, but it's time to find out the truth. Michael was my boyfriend in college before we started dating. We never stopped seeing each other. He got tired of waiting for the opportunity to be with me. So we decided that since the plan wasn't working, it's time to wrap things up and move on. "What the hell are you talking about? What's the plan? You were so smart in school and college. You were chosen as the one most likely to succeed. You had such potential. Then you started this software company, and I thought nothing could stop you. But you never did anything meaningful for yourself. The plan was to wait until you made good money, real money, and then I would divorce you. I would take my half, and Mike and I would walk off into the sunset. He's tired of seeing me once a week when you went on a business trip. When we realized that you would never achieve anything significant, we stopped being so careful." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I wanted to bury myself in a hole and die. Is she serious? She only married me for the money she thought I would make. I couldn't even bear the sight of her. "Nurse, get her out of here. Jenny, just get out of my sight. I don't want to see you anymore. You can get your divorce, you sneaky bitch. Nurse." I started pressing the morphine call button as quickly as possible. I didn't want to feel pain. Not the physical pain, the pain of her breaking my heart. "I'm sorry, Nikki. I didn't mean for you to get hurt. It's true. I just wanted to get this over with quickly and move on with my life." She took her jacket and headed towards the door. "Trust me," I said. "It's not over yet." "I'm sorry, Nikki, but this is the end." I was never popular in high school or college. I had 1 or 2 close friends, and that was it. I spent most of my lunch breaks alone. So I was a little shocked and a little confused when Jenny, a 5'7", 135-pound blonde bombshell head cheerleader, asked me early in my 3rd year of college if she could sit with me for lunch. I was sure this was some kind of joke. In high school, I received my share of jokes, bullying, and teasing. I expected college to be different. Physical violence decreased, but psychological violence and abuse continued. You could say I was a nerd. I'm 5'10" tall and only weigh 165 pounds. I'm not at all athletic and spent most of my time with my nose buried in a book or watching movies. "Do you mind if I sit here?" she asked a second time. "With me?" I asked. "Of course, with you. I have something I need to talk about. It's most likely a request. You went to Central High School, right?" "Yes," I managed to say. "I'm having trouble with some subjects, and I really need a tutor. I know you were smart in school. We may not have talked, but I knew everyone who was there. Most girls hate me because I'm beautiful and the main cheerleader, so they won't help me. And most guys think it's a free ticket to sex with me for the same reason when I ask them to help. I really don't want to fail, so I decided to ask you. So am I a safe choice? I don't want to hurt your feelings, but yeah, you're a safe choice. Plus, when school gets too hard, we can at least talk about old school and discuss who's where now. What do you say to that? I appreciate your honesty. I can't promise that this will be long-term. Let's do one lesson and let's see where it leads. Agreed?" she said. It's agreed. Here is my address and phone number. Call me later and we can arrange a time. I really appreciate it. This is how I, a little old nerd, had to spend time with a hot-tempered cheerleader. Our classes started out purely about learning, but the more we got together, the less learning there was, and we started talking more about ourselves, what we wanted out of life, and where we see ourselves in a few years. We talked about our families, our hobbies, and I even told her about the company I wanted to start. The more we talked and the more she opened up, the more I fell in love with her. Her hotness was just an incredible bonus. Her apartment always looked like an oven, and she wore the skimpiest shorts and tiny tank tops. I didn't want to be like other guys and embarrass myself by asking her out, so I never did it. But my God, how I wanted it. It hurt me to spend so much time with her every day, and I didn't have any more. And then one day she gave me a surprise. Get dressed. We're going somewhere tonight. Dinner and then a party, she said when I picked up the phone. What do you mean? I asked. I'm asking you on a date. I know you're too nice a guy to ask, especially after I told you about my other male mentors. But I think we got to know each other on a personal level. I think we should go on a real date and see what happens. I don't know about that. I mean, look at me. What does a person like you want from a person like me? I saw all the other guys you dated. I'm not your type. You like athletic, muscular guys with spiky gelled hair. First of all, yes, let's take a look at you. You are smart, funny, have a great personality, and most importantly, you are a real person. A man with real fears, real hopes, real dreams. Secondly, yes, you are not like all the other guys I've dated, and there were many of them. Do you know why? Because they cheat, they have egos, and they treat me like crap. You're beyond my type to find a guy to be with. She took me at my word, and we went to dinner. When we entered the restaurant holding hands, people looked at us. They looked at her because she was insanely beautiful, and they looked at me wondering how the hell I managed to get a date with her. Dinner went well. She flirted a little and touched me. I was nervous as hell and just trying not to look like an idiot. While we were waiting for the bill, she said to me, "You don't have to be so nervous. If we don't work out, we can still be friends. You won't lose anything, you'll be the same as yesterday, so you've got nothing to lose. But if you relax and we work out, think about what you can get." Again, she took me at my word. We went to a party and she introduced me to several of her friends. Strange, but there were no strange looks or hostility from her friends. I got along well with 2 girls and 1 guy, as they were also film buffs. And then came the moment of the evening that I feared most. The big, muscular quarterback of the football team walked toward Jenny. My heart pounded in my throat as I tried to come to terms with the fact that I was going to lose her. "Hey, pretty girl, do you want to dance?" he said, muttering the words through too much beer. "No, thanks. I'm here with a guy," she said, nodding in my direction. "With this guy? You can't be serious." "Of course I'm serious," Jenny replied. "This guy is a loser. Sooner or later, you will end up with me, so let's save time." "Loser. He's here with the biggest cheerleader. We must have very different definitions of what a loser is." I couldn't help but laugh. "Damn, are you laughing? You think that because you brought her here, you'll leave with her? She'll leave with me. You're nothing. I'm a football star. You have no skills in bed. She knows that I'll do everything possible to." This was the moment of truth. If I was going to fail, I was going to fail big time. I gathered all my strength and did my best Sean Connery imitation by interrupting him. "Your best? Losers are always whining about their best. Winners go home and make love to the prom queen." This caused loud laughter from the entire crowd. He started to get tense, but his friend came over, calmed him down, and he left with his tail down. The evening promised to be good. As I walked Jenny home, I walked up to her door. She kissed me. "I may not be prom queen, but I would love for you to spend the night." We made love. That night, we became a couple and spent all our time together. She moved in with me 2 months later. 2 years later, we had a magnificent triumph. We graduated, got married, went on our honeymoon, and when we returned home, I opened my own business. Everything was wonderful. Wow, you look terrible. My brother Anthony had a way with words. I knew he would be here the second time I woke up. He wouldn't come as long as Jenny was here. To say that they did not love each other is to say nothing. He always thought that she had an ulterior motive, and she believed that I idealized him too much and lived in his shadow. But he loved me. When I told him about my plans for my own business, he forced me to explain to him what I was up to. After I told him, he asked what I needed to get started. I said I needed a $50,000 loan for startup expenses. He made one phone call, and when he hung up, he said I would have $50,000 the next day. He didn't even let me give him the money. He said he would give me all the startup funds for a 20% silent partnership in my business. He may not have believed in my company, but he believed in me. How bad? I wasn't conscious for a long time and didn't ask. My whole body hurts, I admitted to him. Pretty bad. The doctor said it would take about 6 weeks to recover. Nikki, why didn't you call me? You know I could help. Anthony, I found out about everything that same day. I had no idea. No clues. I must be blind. There must have been some signs. I began to get lost in my thoughts. I was waiting for him to tell me that he told me, and I told you. He warned me about her, but I didn't listen. He had a serious conversation with me when I sold the program. A year after I started a software company, I came up with an interesting program. I won't go into details, but this is something that can now be found in almost every mobile phone. A large telephone company bought the idea. I gave them all the documents for the program, and they paid me $25 million in advance, plus 0.5% of the sales of each device that included my program. My brother arranged the deal. His 20% brought him $500,000. He asked me to hide the money from Jenny. He said that she will promote this money in no time. She is my wife. How can I hide money from her? It's simple. I know a little banking law. I could hide it for you in an overseas account. I'll put $100,000 in cash in a safe in case of an emergency and hide the rest. Not forever, of course. Just give her a few years to prove that she's a worthy wife. Mom and Dad made me promise that I'll look after you like an older brother. I'm just doing what I promised. He knew where to hit. He knew how much I valued our parents' advice in such matters. Ever since they died in the car accident, I started listening to him. I didn't like it, but I did what he asked, with the condition that we tell Denny about the money in 2 years. This was the only time I lied to my wife. Little did I know then that less than a year later I would catch her with someone else. Get dressed. I'll get you out of this hospital. The girls will love the look of you. Nothing attracts women like sympathy, Anthony said, throwing me some clean clothes. No, I was robbed and decided not to give up my wallet. They became rude. That's the whole story. No one will know the truth. Besides, the doctor said I can't check out until tomorrow, I said, a little puzzled. Just consider it an early release. As he wheeled me out to the front entrance of the hospital, Anthony helped me to my feet. He said, "Here's the plan. We'll send you somewhere for a while to let your arm heal. I don't want that bitch to see you around town like this." And then, he suddenly stopped talking. I looked where he was looking. He looked straight at the man's mountain. The guy had to be 6 feet 2 inches tall and weigh 240 pounds of pure muscle. He was wearing a black suit with a black silk t-shirt and a small gold cross on a gold chain around his neck. He had a bald head and a goatee. He was standing next to a Lincoln Town car with the back door open. He didn't move or say anything. "Change of plans, we're going to Carmine's," Anthony said in a serious tone. "When Carmine asks, you can't refuse. Here's what you need to know about my brother. He's probably smarter than me. He is much shorter, only about 5'6" in, and has a bit of a potbelly. He was also teased a lot in high school. Unlike me, he didn't use it as motivation to become better. He used it to make himself worse. He rarely talked about it, but sometimes he told me things, so I had an idea of what his life was like in case something happened. Anthony decided to use his talent for mathematics, money, and computers to work outside the law. Plus, Anthony worked for Carmine. I only met Carmine once. My brother hosted a dinner to celebrate the deal for the program. We went to a small Italian restaurant off the main roads. The owner, Carmine, came over and said hello to my brother. My brother introduced me to Carmine. Carmine said, "Finally met the man who turned my 25,000 into a $250,000. Fairly, it's very valuable. Bon appetit," on the house. He said nothing more, turned and left. I knew who Carmine was. I saw his face on the news from time to time. Reporters always used buzzwords when talking about Carmine. They used words like RICO, racketeering, and most often, mafia. Then Anthony told me that he was working for Carmine, although he did not specify what exactly he was doing. He explained how he called Carmine to get money that Carmine owed him. He told Carmine about my plan. "Do you believe this computer thing will work?" "Carmine, to be honest, I don't know. But I trust my brother," Anthony said. That was enough for Carmine. The next day, Anthony had 25,000 of his own and 25,000 from Carmine. We reached the Carminer restaurant in about half an hour. Lou, the guy who picked us up at the hospital, led us into the restaurant, past the tables, through the kitchen, and into the office in the back. Carmine was sitting at a large oak table. I was just about to sit down when I heard the door open. I turned my head when a vision of beauty walked in through the side door. She was great. I could tell she was quite young, maybe just turned 21. She had an hourglass figure with nice breasts, and her hostess outfit hugged her every curve. She had an exotic look that I took to be Latin American rather than Italian. "No, dear," she said. "Don't sit on the chair, sit on the sofa. It'll be better for your arm. Can I get you something to drink or eat?" she said, adjusting the pillows next to me so I could support my arm in an elevated position. I waited for a look of pity, but it never came. "These guys are good, Becky. Can you leave us for a while?" Carmine said, waving his hand towards the door. She swayed her hips as she walked away. I watched her leave, wondering how many times Carmine had slept with her. When she left, Carmine began to speak. "This Becky, Rebecca, is a good girl. She had a difficult childhood. Drunk mother, abusive father. I took her under my wing. She works here so she doesn't have to come home. She asked me not to interfere and not make her family disappear. But I definitely have to be convinced that this girl will graduate from college and be able to achieve something to get out of this situation." I immediately respected Carmine. I knew he wasn't sleeping with her. He could use her situation to his advantage. Instead, he used everything in his power to put her on the right path. "So, I heard you're having problems with a woman," Carmine said as I glared at my brother. "Don't blame him. He didn't tell me. Let me explain something to you about your brother. Without going into too much detail, he works for me and we make a lot of money together. He's a very loyal employee and I appreciate that about him. He doesn't laugh at my jokes when they're not funny. He disagrees with me when I say the Royals will win the World Series, and he tells me what he thinks even if it doesn't agree with me. Always respectful. Because of this, he is my friend. My true friendship is more valuable than his loyalty as an employee. Therefore, when I see that my friend is going through difficulties, as I recently learned about what happened to you, I make it my business to find out what's bothering him and to help as much as I can. So tell me about Jenny." I told the whole story. How we met, marriage, how I found her with someone else, and her visit to the hospital. He sat with no expression on his face, just listening carefully to the whole story and all the details. It felt good to finally let it all out. When I finished, he asked me, "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to follow Anthony's plan. Hide for a few months, come up only to sell my business, and then disappear. Between the money I saved and the money from selling the company, I could live comfortably somewhere in the Caribbean." He leaned over, looked me straight in the eyes, and asked, "But what do you really want to do?" I sighed. "Honestly, I want to make them pay. I want them to feel what they made me feel," I said, looking down. "Okay, enough of this escape. Let's work on a plan. I don't even know where to start. She called him Mike. That's all I remember. I couldn't even recognize him in line if I had to. Carmine pulled a folder from the table and threw it to me. Mike Downs, Carmine said. 6 feet tall, 195 pounds, brown hair. I work as a mechanic. Went to the same college as you and her and dated her before you two met. That's probably when they came up with a plan for her to marry you and take everything she could from you. He is from a small town in Arizona where his mother still lives. He calls her 3 times a week. All her data is here too. He had everything. Photographs, times, dates. All we needed was to find a way to hit him where it hurt the most. I knew where to hit Jenny. I just needed a reason for this. We developed a plan with them. Now I just had to wait for my hand to heal. Now that we've discussed everything, I need to focus on a bigger problem. Becky is starting to fall behind in her studies, and I need to find her help, Carmine said. I can help her. No joke. If you have space here, I could come here and help her. My grades are good, plus I need something to do while my arm heals. My head programmer runs the office, so how can I not meet clients like this? I had an agonizing wait ahead of me. I wanted to take revenge immediately, but I knew I needed both hands to do it. At least now I had something to do while I waited. 3.5 months after I found out about Jenny's affair, the house we lived in belonged to her parents, so my brother packed up all my things while I was in the hospital. I was only out of the house for 2 days before she moved in with Mike. Everything was going well for them. Jenny filed for divorce after writing off the losses, but she never found out about the hidden money. She just wanted to get rid of me. Their world began to fall apart one Friday night as they were leaving the house for a date. As they walked to the car in the driveway, Lou, MT, stood in front of Mike. Someone wants to talk to you. My car is over there. Let's go. Your girlfriend should stay here, Lou said. Mike objected. Wait a minute. You can come with me to the car and sit in the back seat, or I can drag you to the car and you ride in the trunk. It's up to you, but you come with me. Mike turned to Jenny. You better stay here. I don't know who this guy is or what he wants. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. But if you don't hear from me in 2 hours, call the police. Lou led Mike to the same office where I met with Carmine. Lou told Mike to sit down and Carmine did his thing for about 5 minutes, giving Mike the opportunity to just sit and sweat. Then Carmine said, You know who I am? Mike was breathing heavily and it seemed like he might suffocate. Yes, sir. I know who you are. Okay, this will save us a lot of time. Take this cell phone. Within a few days, he will call. Only one person knows this number. When he calls, answer and stay in touch until the other person hangs up. After that, come here and meet me at noon next Sunday. Do you understand the instructions? Mike barely managed to squeeze out an audible yes. Okay, if you deviate from this plan in any way, tell anyone, including your girlfriend, about what we talked about the cell phone or anything else, it will end badly for you. Try to escape or leave the city, and it will be very bad for you and for her. Do you understand that? Again, Mike simply said yes. Okay, now get out of my sight. Thus ended Mike's meeting with Carmine. He had no idea why he was being called, what he had done to be called to meet Carmine, or who would be calling him on the phone, or what they would be talking about. Mike knew one thing. He would follow instructions to the letter. Because when Carmine asks, you can't refuse. Waiting for the call drove Mike crazy. He was nervous, irritable, and very abrupt, especially towards Jenny. He decided to go out for a drink, leaving her at home. Just as he parked at the bar and was about to get out of the car, the moment he had been waiting for arrived. The telephone rang. He picked up the phone and said, "Hello." On the other end of the line I said, "Set up a video call." When he pressed the button and my face appeared on the screen, he asked, "Do we know each other?" Of course, it was something you apparently don't remember, but I remember it very well. I'm Jenny's soon-to-be ex-husband. "Damn," he said, realizing that this conversation did not bode well. His thoughts were racing. How did Nikki recognize Carmine? What did they have in mind for him? Mike's head was full of questions. Panic set in. "I want you to see something," I said. "I have an earpiece in my ears, so no one but you can hear me." Mike paid close attention to every detail as I began walking. Brief glances made him realize that I was somewhere that was familiar to him, but he couldn't remember where. "Baby, are you done in the bathroom?" The voice came from off-screen, but Mike recognized it as soon as he heard it. It was the first voice he had ever heard. It was his mother's voice. Then he realized why everything seemed familiar. He realized that I was at his mother's house in Arizona. "Sorry. Got a call from a friend. Say hi to my buddy Barry," I said, thinking of a random name for Mike. "You son of a bitch," was all Mike could get out as I turned the phone's view so he could see his mother, but she couldn't see him. She was wearing stockings and high heels and nothing else. "Please don't do this," Mike begged. But I did and made him watch. When Mike came to our lunch meeting, he was angry with me. He would have broken his leg and kicked my ass if we hadn't been at Carmine's. He knew better than to act there. Besides, he had questions that he wanted answered. "I want to know how you got it," he said as soon as he sat down. "Fair enough question," said I. "I had to do it. It's amazing that her mom's best friend sold it for only $10,000. Her friend told me everything I needed to know about your mom. She told me where I could meet her, what she was interested in, what buttons to push to make her want to know more. It turns out that your mom was much quicker to give herself to a guy who was only in town for a few weeks." "Now what?" he asked. "Now we are even for the fact that you slept with my wife. I am ready to ignore the money. Greed takes over people. I am also not angry about the beating. I was the first to rush at you." "Okay," he said, standing up and heading towards the door. "We're even on this, but we have a few more issues we need to discuss. Take a seat. I need to tell you about my surprise for your mom." He sat down again and looked at me with hatred. "Turns out your mom's friend was right. Your mom really opened up to a stranger who she thought was leaving town and never coming back. One night after sex, we started talking about fantasies, and she was a little standoffish. Then I told her that anyone but a stranger could fulfill her fantasies without worrying about him judging her or meeting her at the local supermarket. She was afraid that I would think badly of her. I convinced her that this would not happen, and she opened up to me. Her two biggest fantasies were very dirty, and I helped her realize them." He was confused, but not defeated. "Nonsense," he shouted. "This must not be true." I grabbed the remote from my desk and pressed play. I stopped playing after about 30 seconds. He was confused, but not yet defeated. "You're going to do something for me," I said. "Screw it. Why should I do anything for you after all this?" he asked. "Because if you don't, copies of this DVD will end up in the mailboxes of everyone in your mom's town in Arizona. All of her family, all of her friends, all of her co-workers, and all the people at the charity she helps at. I might attack you, but it would lead to nothing. I needed to attack someone you really care about. You made me leave no choice. If you do what I ask, the original and the copy I have, they will be destroyed." And here it is, the very look I was waiting for. He was a defeated man. "How can I trust that you won't leave copies, or that you will actually destroy the originals like you promise? I can't trust you." "You can trust that they will be destroyed because I give you my word that they will be destroyed," Carmine said. That must have been enough for Mike because he stopped trying to argue. I laid everything out in front of him. I told him exactly what I wanted him to do. I told him that when this was done, he could come to my apartment. "Is that all? Can I leave?" Mike asked. "There's one more thing. After you finish this case, you'll leave town and won't come back. You won't tell anyone you're leaving or why, especially Jenny. I just think it's best for everyone," said Carmine. Mike agreed. What else could he do? When Carmine asks, you can't refuse. My doorbell rang after about 7 weeks. I opened the door to see Mike standing there. "Everything is done," he said. I gave the disc to Carmine. I have a flight out of town tomorrow at 11 a.m. This will give me time after Jenny leaves for work to pack my things and catch the plane. Okay, Mike, you kept your end of the deal, and I'll keep mine. I'll go to Carmine today and tell him to destroy the original and copies of your mom's DVD. He's been keeping them since the day we met in his office. You know, they say that women choose men who are like their fathers. It seems that men choose women who are like their mothers. With that, Mike turned and walked away, and I never saw him again. I kept my word and went to Carmine. I told him he could destroy everything he had on Mike's mom. He said he would keep the disc Mike gave him until the time came. He said I didn't need to see him. He asked if I had any more questions. I found a buyer for my company. A good man. He agreed to keep all my current employees for at least a year, after which they will be revalued. He even included it in the contract, so you will receive a check for your 10%. Plus, these cell phones started selling, so we should start getting checks from them too. Okay? Okay. Now I have something I want to talk to you about. Becky came to see me yesterday. How did she pass her exams? I asked. She did well. She will graduate on time next June thanks to your help. But that's not what I want to talk about. She came to me yesterday and said that she would never ask me about my affairs, but she needed to know what you are the one who is doing it for me. When I asked her why, she said that during the time you spent together, she began to get attached to you and wondered if you could have some kind of future together. I told her that you don't work for me, but that I help you with personal problems. Wow, I mean, she's really attractive, smart, cheerful, and we have a good time together. I just never thought about dating her after that conversation you spent with me about her tutors the first time we talked. Maybe you should think about it. She deserves to be happy, and you're a good guy. Besides, if you're mean to her in any way you'll get by, you know what I'll do to you, he said with a wink. Trust me, I know, I said, not sure if he was joking or serious. Okay, Carmine said, I'll keep the disc, and you just let me know when and how you want me to use it. Call me on the phone to give me the details. Okay, I said as I left his office. This seemed strange to me. I knew he hated phones, but he wanted me to call him. It didn't make sense to me, but when the time comes, I'll do as he asks. Because when Carmine asks, you can't refuse. When I reached the front door of the restaurant, I saw Becky at the hostess counter. I decided it was time to act. Hey, I heard your class went well. Yes, I'm so glad I passed those classes. It's all thanks to you. I don't know how I can thank you enough. How about you let me take you out to dinner? Somewhere not here. Maybe we can go out for a few drinks after. It sounds a lot like a date, she said. Funny, I was thinking exactly the same thing. I'd love to go, Nick. I waited 10 months before the ideal circumstances for the second phase were found. I had all the information I needed, so I called the number Carmine gave me. Hello? He asked when he picked up the phone. It's me. Do you have any information? Asked Carmine. Friday evening, 8:00 p.m., Hunter Steakhouse on Main Street. It will be done. This bitch won't even know that Thatcher hit. You can trust me. With that, Carmine hung up. I waited nervously all weekend to hear the news. I didn't hear anything until Monday morning. I left the house and went to where the newspaper boy had left my newspaper. I bent down to pick it up, and then a huge shadow enveloped me. I looked up and saw Leo empty. It's all done, he said emotionlessly before turning and walking away. It was over. I woke up to sunlight streaming through a gap in the curtains and straight into my eyes. She threw off the blanket in the middle of the night. God, how beautiful she is. We've only been married 3 days, but I could wake up like this for the rest of my life, she said. Get used to it, Becky. I plan on living a long life, and that means a lot of mornings when I wake up like this, I said. Luckily, at that moment, there was a knock on the door. Who bothers newlyweds at 9 a.m. on the 3rd day of their honeymoon in Hawaii? I'll open it, she said, throwing on her robe. She opened the door to find a maid with a breakfast cart from room service. Oh my God, that's so sweet of you, Nikki, she exclaimed. I wish I could take the credit, but that's not me, I admitted. The maid said, I was told to deliver this breakfast to you along with this. This will explain everything. He handed me a soft envelope. I gave him $1.20 tip and closed the door behind him. I wheeled the cart to the small dining table. We started having breakfast when I opened the package. Inside was a DVD, 5 smaller envelopes with numbers on them, and one large one that said, "Read first." I opened it and began to read it aloud to my new wife. Congratulations to the two newlyweds. I must apologize and say that I am very sorry that I could not attend your wedding. I knew you wanted a small ceremony and decided that my presence could attract unwanted attention and distract you on your big day. I always wanted what was best for you, Becky, and decided it would be best to stay home for your wedding day past perfect. Come to the restaurant when I come back. I have a nice gift for both of you. Becky, I need you to leave Nikki alone for about half an hour. There's something in those sleeves and on that DVD that he should see. Nick, put in the DVD and open the envelope with number 1 when you're alone. With love, Carmine. She kissed my forehead, said she was going to take a shower, and that when I was done, we would sit by the pool and have a couple of Mai Tais. When she left, I did as instructed and inserted the DVD, opening the first envelope. The instructions are simple. Press play on the DVD. When you see a screen that says, "Read envelope number so-and-so," pause and read the envelope before pressing play and continuing watching. If you're ready, press play. I was completely confused when I pressed play. I had absolutely no idea what was on the DVD, and this whole script seemed completely un-Carmine to me. I braced myself for whatever might appear on the screen. The DVD started with a white title card with black text that read, "Frank and Anna's 30th wedding anniversary." Then a picture appeared from a security camera at the Hunter Steakhouse restaurant. Frank and Anna were Jenny's parents, and I heard that she gave them a big party for the occasion. I waited long enough that I figured this was the perfect time for the second phase of my revenge. The screen was full of life. People were clinking glasses, laughing, and having fun. There was no sound, but there was a clear picture. Jenny seemed to be saying something. Then the inscription appeared on the screen, "Read envelope 2." I pressed pause and started reading. Jenny thought it would be a good time for a quick speech to thank everyone for coming. She also prepared a video in honor of her parents and a slideshow to celebrate their 30 years together. Unfortunately for her, we decided to change the content of the video slightly. I pressed play again, and on the screen you could see a large TV being rolled out in front of people. A series of screenshots appeared on the screen in preparation for the video. The text read, "Jenny loves her parents. Jenny wants to celebrate their love for each other." Confusion appeared on Jenny's face as she began to scan the crowd, trying to figure out whose faces could give away who had replaced her video. The video continued. But what does Jenny know about love? When she leaves her husband for things like this. The TV at the steakhouse started playing a video of Jenny having dirty sex with 5 black men. I only realized what I had seen when the words, "Read envelope 3," appeared on the DVD screen. Wow, who would have thought that my phone was being tapped by the FBI? Apparently, after our phone conversation, the feds thought I was going to kill someone at this steakhouse. I rarely drop a glass, especially with alcohol in it. But it turns out, when good crystal glass falls and breaks, it sounds like a gunshot through the listening devices that the FBI installed in the building. Now it became clear to me why he wanted me to call him. He was definitely smarter than he looked. He probably had to be like that to get to where he is now. The FBI on the screen started arresting people as soon as Jenny's uncle, Ernie, grabbed his chest and fell to the floor. Damn, I always loved her Uncle Ernie. "Read envelope 4" appeared on the screen. Uncle Ernie survived. It was just a panic attack. No heart attack. He was kept in the hospital overnight for observation. The video continued for a few more minutes, showing all the guests and FBI employees being interviewed, and then everyone, including the agents and guests, heading out. Jenny sat on a chair in front of the TV with a look of complete shock on her face. Her father was the last one to come out. He looked like he wanted to pick her up, hug her, and tell her everything would be okay. Instead, he just shook his head in disgust and walked away. The waitress walked up to the screen with her back to the camera, walked up to Jenny, whispered something in her ear, and Jenny buried her face in her hands and began hysterically sob and shake. The waitress turned to the camera. It was Becky. "What the hell? What's becketed there?" I shouted. The message, "Read envelope 5, appeared on the screen. I couldn't open it fast enough. "You want to know what she said? Turn around." I turned around and Becky was standing there with a towel wrapped around her body and hair. A sly smile appeared on her lips. "What did you tell her?" I asked impatiently. "I told her Nikki said it was over now." I went up to her and hugged her tightly and kissed her. I held her in my arms for a good 5 minutes before I said, "I love you so much, and you better love, because you can't get rid of me. Nobody hurts the people I love, even if it happened before you and I met." I gladly took the opportunity when I heard from Carmine and Anthony that they need someone on the inside to change the DVD and get the message across. "When did you get involved in this?" "Carmine told me a story when I came to him to ask what you were doing with him. He told me that he was helping you with personal problems, and I demanded to know more because I was starting to get attached to you, and I needed to know how I'm signing with you. They told me everything. When we get home after our honeymoon, we need to go see Carmine, not only because he has a gift for us, but because I need to shake his hand and thank him. Not only because he helped me get revenge, but also because he helped me get my life back and introduced me to a woman who not only loves me, but is always ready to protect me," I said. Becky smiled and said, "Not only that, but Carmine asked. And when Carmine asks, you can't refuse." Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.